What we've got now is the president of the United States. His name is Donald Trump. He has got Erdogan in the Oval, and they are taking questions. Really, mostly Trump taking questions. Erdogan is the president of Turkey. So that's what's happening right now. I've got an aging room Sumatra right here. That's what I'm smoking. I'm Tony Katz. The show is Tony Katz today. The watch is Flederman von Rees. This is the Munchner, the Swiss mechanical. Love it. Let's do some radio. Look at that. I got to the very end of a press conference with Donald Trump. There's a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of hooping and hollering. Pete Hegseth is there. Marco Rubio is there. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, is there. Interesting thing about Hegseth, there's a story indeed about how there's been a meeting called. Washington Post had the story. Hegseth orders rare urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. As I get more information on that, I will bring that to you. Tony Katz today. Guys, an absolute pleasure. Good to be with you. 833-GOT-TONY. That's the number. That's how you get to be a part of the program. 833-468-8669. 833-GOT-TONY. So there he is with the president of Turkey. And, well, I like this guy, but he's got a lot of opinions.
So this is a tough man. This is a guy who's highly opinionated. Usually I don't like opinionated people, but I always like this one. But he's a tough one. And he does an amazing job in his country. And we've had tremendous relationships, both having to do with war and having to do with trade. And I guess today we're talking about both. I'd like to have him stop buying any oil from Russia while Russia continues this rampage against Ukraine. And they've been fighting. They've lost millions of lives already. And for what? For what? It's disgraceful. And I said yesterday, let it keep going because their economy is absolutely terrible right now. And I think it's a shame that they're doing that, killing a lot of people unnecessarily. 7,818 people were killed last week, mostly military people, their people, and Ukrainians. More Russians, actually, than Ukraine, a little bit more. But it's such a waste of human life, and so he ought to stop. Putin ought to stop.
But Turkey is not going to stop buying Russian oil. That's not going to happen. So the problem with our NATO ally in Turkey is that under Erdogan, they have been much more eastward looking than westward looking. And in doing so, in being so, they've created an issue. You can't be part of the process that builds the F-35 fighters for the United States and then purchase the Su-400 Russian missile defense system that's meant to take out the F-35. That dog won't hunt. That's a considerable issue. The issue that Erdogan and Turkey have been looking more towards the east, more towards its Islam as a daily religious function, as opposed to being any level of Muslim nation that saw itself as a Western power. Incredible issues. And Turkey has not only an actual army, but a whole bunch of NATO, which is to say United States hardware, that could be for sale to Russia or China at not even necessarily a highest bidder. The Turkey conversation has always been a conversation. Where their alliances are, what kind of nation they want to be, how they go about getting there. This ability under Erdogan to kind of move on a dime. seriously problematic. And for well over a decade, it has been part of the larger scale issue. But it wasn't the only thing. Of course, Trump took questions from, of all people, CNN.
You repeatedly called out Obama and Biden administrations for their stupid decisions. One example you gave was a refusal to sell the Patriot missile defense systems to Turkey, which resulted in the expulsion of the country from the F-35 program. Now, you are known to be a great deal maker in Turkey. What can you do to undo this stupidity? Yes, CNN show.
CNN? Well, because you sounded like a nice guy, but CNN is fake news. I mean, but you sound like the real deal to me, so I'll answer the question. We're going to be discussing the Patriot system, which is the best system. We'll discuss that. We're going to discuss the F-35. We'll be discussing all of the things that you know about and that some of that you mentioned.
Of course, they're discussing these things. These things matter. We sometimes get lost in the shuffle of, well, Trump wants it and the rest of the world better do it. The rest of the world doesn't see it that way. And what's very strange is people take a look at conversations about Trump and they think that that is Trump, but it isn't him. And it is ever imperative to engage what it is he is saying and doing, because often the action is different than the word, versus what those who consider themselves the influencers or Trump whisperers or whatever the bloody heck they think of themselves. Lots of hits, but not engaged in the nuance. And the nuance is you're going to have to deal with Turkey, because Turkey's a real player that can have huge pushes of hegemonic power into the Middle East. You want them as a thwart to Iran, but you don't want them pushing past Iran. You don't want to have to deal with the Turkey-Saudi Arabia issue. And the Turks are too close to Russia while they're a NATO nation, but you don't necessarily want to push Turkey away because you might need them, especially if Russia decides to get a little bit nutty and cause threat to Turkish interests, which doesn't even bring up where's their connection to China while they hold American hardware. That's the balancing act. That's what a president is dealing with. Once you take a look at it like that, ask yourself, you think Joe Biden had any capacity to handle those multiple things? You think Kamala Harris had the ability to handle those multiple things? I don't believe for a second that you believe that that is in any way possible. There's no way you believe that. But to President Trump.
And I think he'll be successful with buying the things he'd like to buy.
What concrete steps can you take?
Well, we'll have to see. We haven't even started yet. But I know he wants the F-35, and he's wanted that, and we're talking about that very seriously. And the F-16, we're in great shape. Certain other things he needed, as you know, and I'm going to see to it that we get that to him. He needs certain things, and we need certain things. And we're going to come to a conclusion. You'll know by the end of the day.
Mostly President Trump would like to sell them a whole bunch of stuff and absolutely take their cash. I mean, he is who he is. He wants the money. But you got to see whether or not they're really on our side. And then the subject of the hostages in Gaza came up.
And I just say that we want to get Gaza over with. I had a great meeting with the leaders of that area, of that region, generally speaking, the Middle East. We had a great meeting the other day at UNGA, as you know, and I think we're close to getting some kind of a deal done. Yeah, we want to get the hostages back. I have to get the hostages back. We're the ones that got the hostages, all of them that we have now, but it looks like there are 20 living hostages and probably 38 or so dead hostages. Pretty sad. And the parents of those dead souls, those dead, mostly men, boys, in many cases like literally boys, they want those bodies back so badly, as much as though they were alive. And so we had a very good meeting with the representatives of the most powerful countries in the Middle East, and I think we're going to be close to a deal.
I'm not holding my breath for what reason would I hold my breath on the return of hostages and, yes, of bodies? These people see it as absolutely imperative that they properly bury their loved ones. They see this as, in many ways, job number one. Meanwhile, Mahmoud Abbas, because he doesn't use his old school terrorist name.
The Gaza Strip is an integral part of the state of Palestine, and that we are ready to bear full responsibility for governance and security there.
The Gaza Strip is what now? You see, now that France and the United Kingdom and Canada and Australia and a couple other absolutely foolhardy Neville Chamberlain-loving countries have decided to recognize terrorists as a nation, they're like, ooh, we're all good to go. We've got this set. We've got this fine. No problem, no issue. It's all just perfect. That's not it. But go back and listen again to what just got said.
The Gaza Strip is an integral part of the state of Palestine.
What do you mean an integral part? Ah, that's right. You want it all. From the river to the sea. That I forgot. And it was such a catchy jingle. From the river to the I'm scat all of a sudden. All about the jazz. What else did this terrorist have to say?
And that we are ready to bear full responsibility for governance and security there. Hamas will not have a role to play in governance. Hamas and other factions will have to hand over their weapons to the Palestinian National Authority.
You believe that if you want. And this would lead us into a conversation about dynamics in the area and how these groups see each other. If you think for a second, if you think for a moment, you're going to get Hamas to give up all its weapons, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen without some type of peacekeeping force going there and killing every last member of Hamas. They're not walking away. What is this? This is all pretend and make-believe and nonsense. But take advantage of the opportunity, and this will lead us to the rumor about the reparations, as the Daily Mail had the story, but I'll get to that. That and my conversation with Dr. Robert Malone, I'll share that with you later. But man, he goes deep. And what we don't know about what they know, doctors know, medical professionals know regarding acetaminophen and pregnancy, my gosh, boggles the mind. Keep it here. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you guys, man. There's a lot going on today. Oh gosh, I forgot the James Comey story. Let me put that in here. So much. So it's one of those days in news cycle. You know, the top story for well over a week was the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Then you had this attack on ICE agents. And now you have, well, a catching up of all the other things that have been going on. So that's really where it's at right now. That's a weird question that I was just asked. Sorry. Trying to do 5 things at once, and I am not doing well with that. One should not try and do so many things at one time. Anyway, what's going on with you? What's happening? What do we know? And when did we know it? We're coming back. Come back. So you guys know I'm doing a radio show as well. So in between, I'm getting everything ready and prepared. And usually I'm much more social. A lot of stuff going on right now. A crap ton. Also, I advise you to get on over to TonyKatz.com. We've moved everything to Substack. It is going so well. People are finding us. It's growing at a nice clip. It's been less than a week. So I'm very happy that we seem to have connected in a way. And I just got a text that somebody wants to send me chicken wings. Honestly, everything is coming up Millhouse. It really is. Truly. Craziness is afoot. Craziness is upon us. That's what I'm telling you. Later, I'll share with you my interview with Dr. Robert Malone, who sits on the ACIP, one of the committee members there for the advisory committee on immunization practices. We had a very, very detailed conversation about Tylenol and pregnancy. And not only will we share it in the podcast, if you missed any part of it, we're going to share it separately so you can have just the interview. I'm telling you, you're going to lose your mind. But we did discuss something that Dr. Marty Makary of the FDA was discussing about a new treatment for autism. Can you give me a basic idea of what leucovorin is and what its effect on autism might be?
Functionally, leucovorin is a synthetic vitamin. And what it does is it provides an alternative pathway for uptake of folic acid into the brain. And folic acid and glutathione are involved in key pathways in neurodevelopment, particularly for the infant and the fetus. And so what leucovorin does is it bypasses the folate receptor. And many of these children have folate receptor autoantibodies. So it provides an alternative pathway to get folate into the brain. And in a substantial number of children with autism, that results in a clear clinical response. In some cases quite dramatic, in other cases less so. So this whole narrative about autism, acetaminophen, and leucovorin is all about glutathione and folate levels in the developing brain. And leucovorin facilitates folate uptake into the brain. That make sense?
Well, for those of us who are not doctors and didn't graduate college, somewhat. That's the best way I could answer him at the time. The full interview is coming up. But what was most taking and striking from my conversation with Dr. Malone, who, of course, spoke out aggressively regarding what we were doing regarding COVID-19, Malone.news is where you find him. I didn't know Dr. Malone. This is the first time we've ever spoken in person. Was today when I went to go check out the scene in Springfield, Ohio, Haitian migrants. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. He was kind enough to share one of my videos, and he reached out. He said, "Can I please post this conversation about what it is you're seeing and experiencing? I think my audience would appreciate it. Thank you so much." And so that's how we got introduced. The amount of stuff we don't know, and there's a moment where in the interview, Dr. Malone, I say this kindly, he loses his head. He's like, as if I stated something where he's like, yes, I've been saying that for years. Like, you know, that moment you've been thinking about something, you've been talking about something that comes true, and you're like, yes, eureka, like one of those kinds of moments. He had that moment in something that I stated, and he made the point that was, so we spoke a couple hours ago. And I have not gotten out of my head, and it's actually frightening. He's like, you realize what a poor job medical professionals do in discussing the issues with medications or concepts, that we aren't giving a full, not dissertation, explanation of the pros and cons of specific things. We take them for granted. Okay, this is what you do. Okay, this is it. And that is, you mean we're not even anywhere close to the full story, is what I took from that. Our lack of understanding of things medically is remarkable. What I can tell you is that the left's response to the announcement from President Trump and the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., regarding Tylenol and autism, which is really to say acetaminophen and autism. And all of the posts from Tylenol over the years that, hey, we don't recommend this during pregnancy. Check with your doctor. We've never done a study on this during pregnancy. Check with your doctor. Hey, you shouldn't take this during pregnancy. Check with your doctor. In 2013, Reuters writing articles about acetaminophen and issues with pregnancy. In 2025 saying, look at what ridiculous things the Trump administration is saying. Johns Hopkins University in 2019 discussing acetaminophen, pregnancy, ADHD, and autism. And we have people saying, I'm not going to listen to Donald Trump. Look at me, I'm pregnant. They go on video, look at me, I'm pregnant. And they're popping Tylenol. I'm not your doctor. You want to take Tylenol, you take Tylenol. But because Kennedy said it and Trump said it, it's a lie? That reflexive response from media, I don't know what could possibly be more dangerous. Except, of course, for Marxism and liberal white women. I repeat myself, it's so outrageously dangerous to say, oh, Trump said it, I'll just, two in the mouth, I'm good to go. It's madness. And it's not the way normal people act or react. Don't take your medical advice from me, although listen to the interview. Check with your doctor. But I'm going to do the opposite of what Trump said? This is your kid we're talking about. This is your future child. The answer is Trump doesn't know? Talk about just absolutely diseased minds. You'll enjoy the interview with Dr. Malone. That's coming up. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. Crazy town. Crazy town. By the way, the interview, so good. He's about halfway through. And I'm like, yeah, I got to bring him to Indianapolis. I got to bring him for an event. If I do a Dr. Malone event, First things first, tickets are going to be $100. I don't think he's going to be cheap. And secondly, it's going to sell out. I do 400 seats. It's going to sell out. I may be renting theaters. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Some people want to bring us wings to try on Eat, Drink, Smoke. So this has been happening a lot. So Eat, Drink, Smoke, the Cigar and Bourbon Show, it's doing well. And it's weird because we never hit it out of the park, like right off the bat. We weren't out of the gates, just wildfire. We're kind of in that place of 10 years to overnight success. I've been doing that show. I started that show 6 years ago. I think it was that 6 years ago. And for whatever reason, this past year, that show has hit its stride. It's very, very strange. I can't explain how it works, by the way. There, see the little logo in the corner there? That's Eat, Drink, Smoke right there. That's us. You can't explain why. I don't have a reason for why that is. Oh, I can put it over here. Can I put it over here? Yeah, there it goes. See, there's Eat, Drink, Smoke. And there's TK. And there's another Tony Katz one right there. I could always have that there. We could do that's if you like that. And then I've got this one, right? Kind of groovy. I can't explain why it is, but it's starting to hit a stride, and I'm hoping that leads to a greater and greater things because it's a lot of fun. And doing the show with Fingers Malloy is very funny, and not everything has to be 24-hour politics. It's a great show, but it's interesting that you stick with it. You stick with it. You stick with it. You put the faith in. You put the time in. Me, I put the dollars in. Starting to see the results. Pretty groovy. So what do you guys got? Let me check your comments. Let me see what's going on. 1 minute, producer Landon. Fine. Be that way. It's Dave Kepler. Dave Kepler owns one of the great cigar lounges in central Indiana called Smoker's Choice. When I was a kid, excuse me, no one knew about autism, and I'm 80. This is, so much of the point, Dave, that and what Secretary Kennedy is saying is that we've seen this go from 1 in, 30,000 to 1 in 30 to 1 in, I think it's 1 in 31 right now. So also, I looked up at you on the other monitor on my desk and noticed you're getting some lighter hair in that beard. Oh, this? Yeah. Oh, so I could have a whole conversation about going gray. And I think that people who concern themselves with going gray are nuts. And not only do I believe this for me, I believe this for my wife. Bring it on. And if that's all the gray I've got right there, honestly, hot. So hot.
Well, I can't tell you what's going to happen because I don't know. You have very professional people headed up by the Attorney General, Todd Blanche, and Lindsay Halligan, who's very smart, good lawyer, very good lawyer. They're going to make a determination. I'm not making that determination. I think I'd be allowed to get involved if I want, but I don't really choose to do so. I can only say that Comey's a bad person. He's a sick person. I think he's a sick guy, actually. He did terrible things at the FBI. And but I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen.
So are charges going to come against James Comey for lying to Congress? Tony Katz today. Allow me to say, for the record, I hope so. because I was told, as a matter of fact, I was lectured to. Maybe you were too. Perhaps you remember it. Let us go back a little bit into the Wayback Machine here, just a little ways back. And done. Do you remember when we were told? Now, you were there. You were there and I was there. We were minding our own business. We were getting lectured to, and we're like, okay, what is this lecture about? The political left is lecturing us. What is this one about? Is this about our privilege? No, it's not about our privilege. Is this about America being inherently racist and the 1619 Project being true when it's clearly false? No, that wasn't this one here. Is this about being sexist because we didn't vote for Kamala Harris? No, not this one. They'll get to that, but not this one. No. This one was about the idea that nobody is above the law. And see, now you remember. Before you were like, there's so many lectures. Who can keep up? But you remember that lecture. Oh, that lecture went on for a while. Nobody's above the law, even if you have to invent crimes like the DA in New York, Alvin Bragg, to go after the president of the United States with. Even if you have to make up the crime to fit, there's nobody above the law. And we were lectured, and we were told, and we were told, and we were lectured, and we were screamed at, and then we were called names, and we were called un-American because they needed to really impress this upon us. Well, it turns out we never needed a lecture. We have long believed this. We have long believed that we are a nation of laws, not a nation of men. That the laws ensure that we play by the same rules. And when we see people not playing by the same rules, man, we get annoyed as all get out. And when we see people flat out lying, like it is that people like James Comey did, well, we want to see something done about that. When we see people abusing children like Jeffrey Epstein did, we want something done about that. So now the question is there going to be an indictment against the former FBI director, James Comey, for perjury? Because there's a deadline coming up. This is about whether or not he lied to Congress September 30th, 2020, regarding the handling of the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. So federal prosecutors have 5 years. 5 years, right? 5 years to bring the charges from the moment of the infraction. And so that would be now. So it's not necessarily known what the extent would be, which part of his testimony would be the part that you would be then engaging the prosecution of. But anybody who looks at James Comey and says, what a guy, what an American. No. Bad guy. Fraud of a guy. And I'm not going to get upset if charges are brought against him. This is a guy who did lie. This is a guy who lied repeatedly. Why in the world should such a thing, lying to Congress, for what reason should that possibly be rewarded? In the same way, when we talk about reward, what it is that, I spoke about it earlier when talking about Mahmoud Abbas there and the Palestinian Authority. What it is that France and Canada and the UK and Australia did in recognizing a Palestinian state is far more than a conversation about Israel. I know that's the way people want to put it and place it, and that's their issue. This is about what it is we reward as supposedly free and thinking people. We think of these nations as like-minded nations. And as we discussed, I should say, people think of them as like-minded nations. Oh, yeah, of course I'd go to UK, I'd go to Australia, I'd go to Canada, I'd go to France. They're just like America. They're not like us. Not at all. And certainly on the conversation of free speech. If you think that lockdowns were an issue here in the United States, which they absolutely were, what they did to people in Australia, what they did to people in Canada is flat out obscene. These are not the same places that we are. These aren't good places. These are not good governments. This is not good governance. It doesn't mean that we don't have some strategic interests and alliances. I very much like that we are working with Australia and we're going to engage in the creation of submarines in Australia. Just take a look at a map. Easier to launch to where? Yeah, you know. You know. It rhymes with China. But they're not like us. And what they've done in recognizing these terrorists is obscene. They're recognizing that Hamas can murder 1,200 people and then get legitimacy. Or as Al Sharpton would say, legitimatized. It's a very Neville Chamberlain, ignorant, foolhardy move. In that, as this has happened, these nations that I wouldn't vacation in, Italy, oh, I'm going. I am going. Really, if it starts with an I, Italy, Iceland, Israel, which I have the opportunity to go to this time next month. And I don't think I'm going. Should I go? I don't think I don't know how I make that trip fly. I really and truly don't. I want to. I really want to. I'm just not sure I'm going to put it together. Plenty of nations to go visit and plenty of places to go vacation. There came about a story the other day that if you get my show sheet over there at TonyKatz.com, you'll see the story. It was put out by Hot Air and a host of others that the Daily Mail reported that the Palestinian Authority is saying to Great Britain, you're now recognizing us as a nation? Fantastic. $2 trillion, please. And you say, I'm sorry now? What is this? Oh, no. Reparations. Reparations, we want $2 trillion because you didn't properly handle things going back to 1948. These people are Balfour Declarationing all over themselves because of the creation of Israel. You owe us. By the way, $2 trillion is, according to sources, the size of Britain's total economy. Now, people have been walking this back saying it's not true, it's not factual, it's not anything that was ever asked for. Absolutely, positively not. I don't know if I believe that. Maybe it was asked for, maybe it wasn't. But the fact that it was brought up could make one think that people have actually been thinking about something like this. If they do this, we do that. And who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and they'll give us a couple bucks. Maybe they'll give us some aid because clearly they're not getting enough from the UN and the United Nations Relief Work Agency that is utilized to then help with the planning to murder 1,200 Israelis. Two things within that. First, if Great Britain were to move to give the Palestinian Authority or Hamas $1, Israel should freeze every bank account that they have. Now you tell me, hey, Israel doesn't get to stop another nation from doing something like that and giving aid. Giving aid to terrorists? I would expect the United States to stop such a thing with force if necessary. There's going to be an argument about funding terrorism. Look at the sanctions on Iran for the funding of terrorism. You got to stop them cold. But there's a part two. It's time for Benjamin Netanyahu to go in front of a camera and tell the Jews of Great Britain to get out. There's no country left. If they want to be overrun by Islamists, if they want to engage the appeasement of terrorists, what chance do you have? That's not a country. That is the start of an afterthought. That is the start of, hey, do you guys remember that England thing Do you remember that whole United Kingdom silliness? That's what they are. I have stated that Prince William, who will be King William, will be the last king of England. And Prince George, his eldest son, will never be King George. There will be no kingdom. It won't exist anymore. It won't exist. And I think it's time for Benjamin Netanyahu to say that already. The recognition of terrorists, there's nothing else you can do. You can't save them. So you have this place you can go to. Go protect yourself. Do it now. Of course, that should be the conversation. That should be the discussion. In no way, shape, or form can any money be given to these terrorists. And if you're starting to see that, that is the UK further funding its own demise and the demise of others. Can't live in the United Kingdom anymore. My fear is that's going to be the story of Canada and Australia as well. Australia's got a little time, though, because the UK and Canada are so much further ahead in importing Islamists and in destroying their own societies. I'd love to hear Benjamin Netanyahu say it sooner rather than later. This is Tony Katz Today. Sorry, I was going to sneeze. And you didn't need to see that. You did not need to see that in the slightest. What do you mean don't go? Don't go where? By the way, the whole idea that this looks like service station, that's the point of it. I love it. Oh, I love this shirt. What are you talking about? I think that's what makes it awesome. Are you kidding? These are going to be for sale. They're great. That's why I love it. I've got one. So this is actually, I believe this color is like a petrol blue. And then I've got one in light blue. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second, Buster. Hold on. How much time do I have? All right. So hold on here. I'll put this up just for a second. Hold on. Hold on, Buster. Hold on. Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me get back in my fancy chair here. by the way. I don't think that. I think that looks much more like Billy Mays than it looks like me. You mean this? You mean the bottled in bond from Kirkland? It's excellent. This is Kirkland. This is Costco. This is their bourbon, bottled in bond. I forget which distillery it comes from. Let me see. Oh, by Barton, 1792. It's fantastic. So bottled in bond is a bit of terminology, legal. One distiller, one distilling season, one distillate. Right? There's specific rules and has to be at 100 proof. That's what makes it bottled in bond. I'm telling you, excellent. Here, let me show you how good this. I'm not doing that. What's wrong with you? My gosh. Goodness gracious. Excellent stuff. So very good. Oh yeah. And by the way, I guess it depends on where you are. I don't think this was $35. Was this $34.99 or was $29.99? Maybe it was $34.99. Outrageously good. There it is. How is Costco not a sponsor? I'm telling you, Pete, these shirts are gold. No, I'm not putting another patch here. American flag? Like, is that what it needs? Does it need an American? No. Cool. Well, yes, everything needs an American flag. Well done, producer Landon. You win this round.
Years ago, how important is it for leaders, especially at the very, very top of the government, to set the tone?
Listen, it should not matter whether the radicalization comes from the right or the left or, sort of the non-ideological deep dark recesses of the internet. This vice president has had a chance now since the assassination of Charlie Kirk to bring the country together, to try to stamp out all sorts of violence, including political violence, and they refuse to do that. What they are trying to do is exploit these murders and these shootings in order to silence only dissent and political opposition on the left.
The left is killing people. Senator Chris Murphy continues to be this guy. He's the guy who the day before, was it the day of, before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, we're at war. This continues apace. You think the left is trying to tone down the rhetoric?
No. Criticizing the way that ICE is rounding up people in this country in a deeply inhumane and immoral way is not an incitement to violence. There is a moment where you cross the line, but what they are trying to do is to destroy the ability for people who oppose their policies to legitimately engage in political debate, and we are not going to let them do that.
Who in the world is stopping you from engaging in political debate? Who in the world is stopping you from doing such a thing?
All right, Democratic Senator.
You call them Nazis. Is that what you're saying? We want you to stop calling them Nazis? You think that's political debate? You don't think that's an incitement to violence? Have you lost your head? And the answer is yes. But I put forth to you, and my biggest fear is, and I say it's my biggest fear, but I believe it is true and it is happening. It goes along with my theory that the only way out is through. The left has no interest in toning down any rhetoric. None. Zero. They have less than zero interest in toning down any rhetoric. Because as I see it, they want it. That's my take. It's a terrible, awful take. Meaning it's terrible to have to say it. But I absolutely believe it. They want it. Nothing has shown that they will tone it down. And you've got Schumer saying that political violence is President Trump's fault. Chuck Schumer said to the Supreme Court, you will reap the whirlwind. You will pay the price if you change anything about abortion. Chuck Schumer cheered the intelligence community, saying they had 6 ways from Sunday to get back at President Trump if he should challenge them. Cheering violence. And now Trump won't. You're taking assassins and saying, well, let's make it political. Good gosh. I'm Tony Katz. There's some things that aren't supposed to be political. There's some things we're supposed to be opposed to. We're just supposed to say, no, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. We oppose assassinations of people we disagree with politically. We oppose shooting at law enforcement. Not the left. They think physically fighting law enforcement is the thing to do. Anyway, it is frustrating. Now, Pete, that would work if I put Tony here in the script, right? Tony, and then anyone who got one, they can get one in their name. Like, well, we'll have it put on. Are these shirts made in America? Okay, American company. The shirt itself is not made in the U.S., but it is not made in China. That's the best I could do on these because I liked this style. If I could find this style at a worthy price point made in America, I would go. If you can find them for me, that'd be great. So the shirt itself, not made in America. The company is based in America, absolutely not made in China. Try my very best. I'm honest and clear about this stuff. Never lie. Guys, here's the story. We're in the radio break, so we're in the live stream break as well. Smoke them if you got them. I've got them, so I will be smoking them. And we'll be back in just a few, all right? Hang loose, and we'll be back momentarily. I appreciate you being here. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. That's the name of the show. I'm Tony Katz. Good to be with you. This is from Aging Room. This is their Sumatra. Not necessarily the cigar that they're, come on, there it is, that they're known for, but a nice stick that I was able to find on sale, and that made it all the better and perfect for the show. They do some nice stuff, and it's been rated very, very highly. So a good cigar, a softbox press, which I like quite a bit. There was a story in Politico, and I'm having a little trouble finding the story about the possibility of a not only government shutdown, but what the Trump administration looks to do during that shutdown. So somewhere I've got that story. I just want to find it. And then there's this really weird story from the Washington Post, which I checked with some sources, and they're like, yeah, we don't quite know what the reason for this is either. Here it is. It was a Politico story. There we go. I don't know what the meeting is for. I don't know who's in the meeting. A meeting with all your top generals? All of them? That's interesting. Not sure. Not sure what it's all about. So I will bring you that story as well. A little bit shorter of a live stream today, but we still have plenty to cover. Anyway, we're back to the radio show. Let's go. We're not back to the radio show. We're still 30 seconds from the radio show. Sorry. I thought we were right on it. I was like that. That's where I thought we were. And so, by the way, the idea of the name right here is good, because then it's like pure gas station. That's a good idea. But it would be a patch, right? And you get the patch done, not just embroidered in, patch with the name, or just put Eddie. All of them say Eddie on it. So as the story goes, the White House is preparing right now mass firings in the federal government. No? Just me? I'm the only person who appreciates such things? I appreciate you being with me. Wow, that was quick. That was quick. Mass firings in the federal government. This because of the shutdown. Tony Katz today. What is going on? Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. The live stream is happening. YouTube.com/Tony Katz. The shutdown is taking place because the Democrats have not figured out that Trump doesn't care what you call him. This is a Republican shutdown, and Republicans are creating a healthcare crisis, and Republicans are running scared, and blah, 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 blah. You don't have the argument. Here's what happened. The continuing resolution passed the House with bipartisan support, because the Democrat did vote for it. It's now in the Senate, and you, Chuck Schumer, think you can hold things up because you, Chuck Schumer, are convinced that you have some kind of leg to stand on. You have some strength, that you are actually galvanizing people and engaging some level of really smart politics against President Trump. It's not happening. It's not happening. We're just not that into you, and you are not a wartime consigliere. You are weak, and Hakeem Jeffries is weak. And that's the best you've got. Republicans are running scared. Republicans are polling better than you on crime, on immigration, on the border, on foreign policy, on gun control, which freaks me out. Everywhere you go, everywhere you look, everything, every single turn you make, you're losing, Hakeem Jeffries, to the Republican Party. And it doesn't matter what story it is. Everywhere you look, shall we go through it again? Okay, let's go through it again.
When Bernie Sanders first ran for the presidency about a decade ago.
That's not the clip I wanted. That's about Representative Ocasio-Cortez and her favorables. This was the story I wanted.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime? A big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Look at that. Lead by 22
points. Then again, the Democratic Party told us there is no crime. Why is Trump talking about crime? Everything's great. All the crime's down. We're doing such a great job. There is no crime. No one ever heard of such a thing as crime. You know what the crime is? Donald Trump. That's the crime. If only somebody would do something about him. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We see you, political left. We're kind of grossed out. Mostly amazed at how absolutely disconnected you are from where the American people are. And it's again proven in this idea of a shutdown. If Democrats want to try and stop the Senate from voting on a continuing resolution, Democrats shut down the government. And as I have said before, here is now how I am going to spend my time. If there's a government shutdown, I'm very, very clear about these things. I do not get worked up. I am now going to share with you how I will spend my time if there is a government shutdown. Cigar in hand, leaning back, and begin. Home today. Home yesterday. Even warmer today. Dewey said that. Dewey was right. That's how I'm going to spend the shutdown. I'm not going to spend any time worrying about it. You're going to tell me about how families aren't getting paid? I hear you. You're going to tell me how the military families are going to suffer? I hear you. I refuse to get worked up about government shutdowns where I have political parties like the Democratic Party more interested in the political victory than they are in the country. If either of these parties were worth a good holy damn, we'd have budgets and not continuing resolutions. We'd have a plan. We would be spending less. We would be paying down debt like every family in America should be doing, living within our means. But we don't have that. So I refuse to get worked up by that. And now what the White House is saying is that the budget office is instructing federal agencies to prepare reduction in force plans for mass firings during a possible government shutdown. And they want to specifically target, as Sophia Kai, I believe that's how I pronounce her last name, from Politico wrote, targeting employees who work for programs that are not legally required to continue. So OMB and this move to reduce the government workforce, if there's a shutdown, there's a memo shared with Politico, escalates the stakes of a potential shutdown. Sure. Stakes are escalated. I am fine with escalated stakes. I, however, would rather we engage in the mass firings even if there's no shutdown. I would appreciate it if we would. I like the idea. I think we should go with that. I think we should keep it up. Have we forgotten that Doge was a good idea? Oh, Trump and Elon Musk had a fight. Oh, now Elon Musk is terrible. Elon Musk is the enemy. What kind of crazy? He was never the greatest American hero because his name wasn't William Catt, and he's never the enemy. He quite literally brought free speech to Twitter, now X, because he said we could engage a conversation, and the concept of cuts and the massive amount of fraud was worthy. Doge is a good idea. Why aren't we doing more of it? Where are those rescission bills that I was promised? Here's the federal government, here's Congress saying, okay, we're going to spend on this, this, and this, and here's what we're spending. Well, what if we don't want to spend that much? Well, it turns out that you can't just say we're not spending that much. We won't spend that much. You have to have a rescission bill, and you have to claw back the dollars and say we're not going to spend $3 billion on this. We're going to spend $1.2 billion on this. Well, to do that, you need legislation. You need the presidency or the executive branch, I'm sorry, thank you, to come to Congress and say, here, pass this legislation. Now, the White House, I believe, is trying to make the statement that the idea of a spending bill, that's the ceiling. It is not de facto the amount that has to be spent. So this is the Trump administration argument. It's actually pretty interesting because I don't know how many of us ever asked that question. If you tell me that there's a spending bill, we're going to spend $1 billion on new shirts for Tony. We're going to spend $1 billion on these shirts, which that's a nice budget. And we see that, we're like, all right, we're spending $1 billion, but we don't ever ask ourselves, well, what if we buy the shirts and it only comes to $750 million? Are you telling me we have to spend the other $250 million? Now, in government circles, you understand how this works. An agency, a group, an organization gets a budget of X. They absolutely spend every penny of the budget. Because what happens if they don't? You know the answer. You don't need me to tell you. What happens if they don't spend it? Oh, we'll do it together on the Twitter X at Tony Katz. In the chat room, you can answer the question. You have a budget of, let's say it's $1 billion. What happens if you don't spend the $1 billion, but you only spend because you were able to find efficiencies and you were able to reduce costs, and you only spend $750 million. What happens at that moment? You know the answer. The answer is that's the weirdest drum roll ever. The answer is next year you only get a budget of $750 million. You will lose out on the budget. You will get less next year. And so government being government, they can't have that. So they spend their full budget and then they ask for an increase. And that, kids, is how you get waste, fraud, and abuse. That, kids, is how you have an ever-growing government. They not like us. This is the difference between government and the private sector. They aren't rewarded by the savings. They're punished for it. And in order to ensure that they don't get punished, they spend more so you get punished and you pay more tax dollars. I haven't said anything that you do not already know. Nothing. So the question before us is, if a Congress appropriates $1 billion for something, do they actually have to spend the billion? What the White House, I believe, is saying is that's a ceiling. That's the most they can spend. What Congress or Democrats are trying to say is, no, that's a mandate. That's what has to be spent, which sounds kind of insane if that's indeed a mandate, because it's saying there can be no efficiencies. We appropriated $1 billion. You appropriated it. Does that mean it has to be spent? Yes. What if we could do the same thing for $47.50? Spend the billion. That is no way to run a country. That is absolutely no way to run a country. So in order to bring the spending down right now, you need the rescission bill. Where are they? Why aren't we reducing the spending? Why aren't we doing more with Doge? And why aren't we talking about mass firings? I got to wait for a shutdown to engage the mass firings? Let's go. There are people working in government who don't need to be working there, who provide no value, who give us absolutely nothing. I'm not interested in paying them. And if they're offended by it, allow me to be clear. How dare you be listening to this show when you're on the clock on my tax dollar? I know I'm entertaining as hell and I'm a fine-looking individual, but you got to get back to work because you work for me. I'm writing the check, and I'm not interested in you having a good time between 9 and 5. Take your lunch break and get back to it. And the lunch break, kids, is over. Right now, there is a guy who's driving a truck listening to this show. When he's done, he's going to go to his second job. And in between, he's going to hope to catch an inning of his kid's Little League game, or maybe see his kid in passing and just ask him how he's doing and how the homework's going. There is a mom who is listening to this show as she's running errands for her family and is going to come home to take care of her ailing mother and then make sure the kids are all set. They got to make every dollar matter. They got to make every cent count. They aren't rewarded for spending the budget. They're rewarded for coming under the budget. And every time Congress and these agencies, I should say, are rewarded for spending the budget and ask for more, the budget of mom and the budget of that guy who's going to his second job gets a little bit smaller because these people take. I am not opposed to government. I'm a fan of the Liberty Society, not the Freedom Society, which is to say, I believe in the rule of law. I believe in the guardrails, and I believe that we should be giving up the very most minimal amount of freedom ever possible to have a society like ours. There's a difference between liberty and freedom. And every time these people abuse, I get sick. So mass firings, okay. And if that's all just a ploy to get Democrats to vote for the continuing resolution, okay. But we'd be better off with the mass firings too. And sooner rather than later, Mr. President. Let's not waste our time on this. Let's get it done. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Welcome back, everybody. Tony Katz. Good to be with you, man. A lot of comments. Let me go through them right here. Producer Landon, never heard a drum roll on the bongos. I aim to please, Landon. I aim. That is Producer Landon, by the way. That is the man right there. Claudia is at the get-go in a place called New Palestine, which is here in Indiana. And the guy in the car next door listening. Guys, thank you. I appreciate it quite a bit. That is very cool. Buster, depends on the steak. Strips, medium rare. Fillets, medium rare to medium. Ribeyes, medium. I want more of that fat rendering right there. These things do matter. Then there is, hold on, I had another one. Todd, what's going on in North Georgia? Yeah, why am I not on in North Georgia? That's madness. I should immediately be on in North Georgia. As a matter of fact, grab a group of people. Tell them they all need to be listening, and then I'll come out to North Georgia. We'll do the show from there. Is that in the mountains? Is that the kind of North Georgia? Because that sounds groovy. Then there is the ever popular, hey Bart, why do you not have a cigar bourbon bar? I believe, Bart, that the answer is because you haven't invested. Pretty sure that's the answer. Pretty sure Bart would just write a check. The truth is, I would say that this conversation comes up every week. Every single week. Listen, I have friends who have cigar lounges, and I think they run great places. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility for me. That I could see having that in my life. The problem is I can't run it. Can't do everything I do and run it. So now who's going to run it? And I have an idea and I have a style. And some people are going to think that I'm going to go crazy high end with it. No. It's really, that is not my want on a cigar lounge. I have a very, very specific idea, but who's going to run it? So when you write the first check, Bart, we're all in. We are all in for that. Anyway, back to the radio show. All right. Oh, you're going to love this. I promise. I lied. That's so rude.
Autocracies now outnumber democracies for the first time in 20 years. Nearly 3/4 of the world's population today lives under autocratic regimes. In too many countries, including, sadly, right here in the United States, democracy is under siege.
Thank goodness Hillary Clinton is working to tone down the rhetoric. In other news, why in the world is anybody paying attention to Hillary Clinton? As she stands there in front of a podium that says Clinton Global Initiative. Did you see the podium? Clinton Global Initiative, 20 years of action. No, 20 years of getting paid for doing nothing, which I guess one could call action. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Democracy is not under siege in the United States. This is a lie. And they continue to push this lie. Desperate to keep this going. Desperate to bring about, in my view, another lone wolf, another attack, more violence. That's their desire. In every single conversation, in every single place, they're doing this. I'm going to get into that in just a moment, especially, dear Lord, what they're talking about ICE and this madness Gestapo talk. I won't let you down. I've got that story. And she continued. Did she do the Southern accent?
Our information ecosystem is broken. AI and social media are supercharging lies. Autocrats attack academia and the media, leaving people vulnerable to manipulation and deeper polarization.
You sent out classified emails and then destroyed the server. I'm sorry, we're the problem? You told us that we couldn't talk about COVID vaccines. You told us we couldn't talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. You lied about Russia, and you sit there and you tell us about misinformation. How does she do it? How does Hillary Clinton do this? She sits there with a straight face. And no, you cannot make face jokes about Hillary Clinton. Don't do that. Don't do that. Focus. You know you are a liar. You know this. You lied about Russia. You planted the story and then got everybody else, maybe they felt like they didn't have an option, to cover for you. We know the story. We know the deal. We're the ones engaging in misinformation. You can't spell misinformation without Hillary Clinton. These people don't stop, they don't rest, they don't quit. And somewhere out there, somebody is donating to her. Someone's donating to this stuff, giving their money. I will tell you, for anything that I disagree with President Trump on, I don't regret a single vote. And keeping her out of the Oval Office, history will record what an unbelievable help that was to the future of America. This is Tony Katz today. Unbelievable help. You think they built a house? Jim, you think they built a house? I'm saying doubtful. Very. You were giving her credit. One house. I'm saying didn't happen. No way. No way it happened. Good gosh. Guys, listen, because some things happening here, I got to run from the live stream. Back tomorrow, starting at noon. I hope you'll join me then. I hope to see you there. Can't thank you enough. Make sure you go to TonyKatz.com. It's looking so good. The Substack is growing and building, and I greatly appreciate you being there. It's just, every second it's building up. So if you would do me a favor, head on over to TonyKatz.com and subscribe. You can subscribe to free. I'd appreciate it if you were a supporter. Can't thank you enough. Building so much, and I love that you're here. Truly appreciate every single bit of it. Tomorrow at noon, I will be back. I will catch you then, guys. You take care.